Here I go. Here I go. G'day guys, this is Nick at stridewise.com where we look at casual stuff that lasts a long time. Today I am here with Mike Smith. He's also known on Instagram as Shaking Boots, shaking.boots, and he's joining me today to not talk about boots, but instead we're going to discuss one of the staples of any well-dressed man's wardrobe, and that is the double-breasted navy wool peacoat.
Right, yeah, so we met up in DC a few weeks back and we were chatting about the Billy Reid Bond peacoat, one of the most iconic peacoats out there on account of the fact that Daniel Craig wears it in the 2012 film Skyfall as James Bond.
But obviously James Bond has an enormous influence on anything that he ever wears. I've reviewed one of his jackets before on this channel actually. And I was very surprised when I saw your Bond peacoat in DC because I have myself, we're gonna get into this one a little bit later, but I have a Buzz Rixon's peacoat here. This is a really heavy, and it's more like a recreation of a World War I peacoat.
Right.
And I sort of thought that's what peacoats were, but this peacoat here, it's very different to how I thought it was gonna be, both like in terms of like the weight and also like how it fits, the size of the collar, the length of it, all this sort of stuff. So there's actually a lot more variation in what peacoats are, what they can be than you might expect. And honestly, more than what I thought they would be as well, especially with something as famous and influential as the Bond peacoat. So I'm pretty sure this is like the most talked about peacoat on earth, so I am mad pumped to get into it.
One of the things that I learned that it's actually not named after James Bond. It's the Bond peacoat because of Bond Street, which is in Manhattan, which is where Billy Reid had one of their first stores. So it's much older than actually the James Bond movie. It dates back to the early 2000s. And so you have a lot of like really unique things about this peacoat that kind of helped it stand out. A few of the details, it is a slim fit. It's that classic double-breasted 6-button front. You've got the 2 hand warmer pockets, but you've also got these 2 other pockets here below that have the flap. You've also got these peak lapels, and this is one of those things that kind of sets the jacket aside. It's also interesting, it's not only that they're peak lapels, they're very narrow lapels.
They're like taking the classic peacoat and updating it.
Certain pieces kind of feel a little more modern, but certain other pieces kind of feel like a little bit of a throwback. And a good example of that is you've got these gussets. So this is like a triangular piece that they've added in here on the side, and what this kind of does is as the sleeve kind of goes to the end, it kind of flares open a little bit, and so that kind of creates a little bit more of a retro feel perhaps. So, you know, that's definitely unique. I also love all the leather accents that you've got going on with this coat. So if you look here underneath of the flap here, you've got Italian calfskin, which is aniline dyed. Looks really nice there, but then it's also on the back of the collar. And this is actually one of my favorite things to do is, you know, it's cold outside right now in New York, pop that collar and you kind of show off a little bit of that leather detail. So it's a nice touch.
Is there a functional benefit to this or it just kind of looks cool?
I think if there's any functional benefit, it probably helps the collar stand up a little bit easier. Other than that, I think it's probably just one of those unique things that if you were to look at someone and look at that, you would go, oh wow, that's a unique feature. Oh, that's the Billy Reid. So it's probably a subtle branding choice.
Tell me more about the fit of this jacket.
Yeah, so it is a very short fit, and that is something that you know, I'm kind of always thinking about. I'm 6'3", where the collar ends to all the way to the bottom on the back of the coat is only 30 inches. So it tends to hit me kind of short, and I have to be kind of careful because depending on the shirt that I may wear with this jacket, if I'm wearing like a button-up with a longer kind of a tail out of the back, the bottom part of the jacket will not cover the shirt, and the shirt will actually kind of pop out, and I think that's kind of a sloppy look. So I kept thinking to myself, if this came in a medium tall, it would have been a perfect fit for me.
Like I said earlier, I was really surprised when I saw this in DC because the peacoat, it was worn by, I don't know if officers is the right word, but it was worn by guys in the Navy, like on ships. It had to be really, really wind resistant, really, really, really warm, and so to that end they used Melton wool and sometimes Kersey wool, which is like just a super, 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 super dense way of making wool, making it extra wind resistant.
Right, so it's interesting you say that. So this actually is Melton wool, but it is not 100% wool. And when they first were making this jacket, and it goes back more than 20 years, it actually was 100% wool, but over the years, it's become 80-20, and now it's 75-25 wool blend with polyamide nylon. And so it's a trade-off because it's not as warm as your jacket, it's not as dense, But again, that feels like an intentional choice by Billy Reed. And I think in a lot of ways, they're not trying to make that jacket for the Navy guy who's on the deck of the ship in bad weather. I think this is for somebody who's running around, on the streets of, DC or New York, and they're looking for a mid-weight jacket.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, a lot of guys, if they are looking for a pea coat, and especially if they're the kind of guys who wind up on this channel, they tend to, if they see polyester in something, or nylon in something, or polyurethane, elastane, any of that kind of stuff, they get totally turned off. Are there benefits of putting nylon in wool? Well, how come I always see nylon in wool blends?
There's a couple of reasons. If you're the manufacturer, I think it helps you keep the cost down, and they're trying to create something that maybe has a little bit more of a ability to move in it a little bit easier, perhaps. It's not necessarily stretchy, but it does have a little bit of give, that fabric. But an important point to make is they have a bunch of different versions of this jacket now.
So the Bond pea coat is 75-25. The nylon makes it a little lighter, makes it move a bit better, makes it a bit more moisture wicking, makes it less natural, means it has petroleum in it and stuff now, so that's a turn off. There are pros and cons to it, but they do have the 100% wool one. Is this lined?
It is not lined, and that's another intentional choice actually by Billy Reed. They use what's called bound seams, and what they claim is that when you finish the ends of the garment in this way, it actually helps in terms of the integrity of the coat overall, and so it's not going to have the wind break through in the same sort of way, which is what the liner is meant to stop. And so they claim that with this kind of construction, you don't actually need a liner, and that a liner just adds additional weight without actually helping that much in terms of keeping the coat that much warmer.
The fact that it's not lined, have you found this makes it pretty breathable? You can wear it in a wide range of temperatures? Because for me, my Filson Mackinac, that's my 100% wool coat, because there's no lining, I can wear it in a really, really wide range of temperatures, and I would have trouble doing that in my traditionally made pea coat.
Yeah, no, I think it makes it really versatile. What I have found is that when I first got the coat, I was able to wear it, and it really wasn't that cold outside. I could have just maybe a single layer on underneath, and I felt like the fit was pretty good. But there was enough room underneath where I could have this very thick cotton sweatshirt like I have on today, throw the pea coat over that, and it allowed it to be a pretty good winter coat at that point where, it's 40 degrees outside and I felt very comfortable. I didn't feel cold. So this retails for $798, and Billy Reed will occasionally have a sale, so maybe you can get 20 or 25% off of that, but definitely on the steeper side when it comes to a lot of these kind of traditional wool, navy pea coats that you see. I feel like most companies make a pea coat. Everything from J. Crew's got one that's coming out every season to, if you're looking for something more on the heritage side of things, Schott. And then, you've got your Bus Ricks, and which to me is, this is very much in the heritage realm in terms of it being based off of that World War I era Navy pea coat, that very sturdy kind of overbuilt kind of style.
Yeah, so pea coats are really hard to talk about because it's not very hard to find a literal World War II one on eBay for less than these. You're gonna replace the lining usually, but they really do hold up for a long time. But there are a few elements to keep in mind here. Number one, not everybody wants to have the thickest jacket in the entire world. This is wearable in more temperatures, which matters. That there's that versatility that you're going to get. This is also, it has a nylon, which is seldom a selling point for a lot of people, but again, like we said, it does help a little bit with performance, and it might help with durability maybe. While we've got them side by side as well, you can see more of the stylistic differences. There's a couple that we touched on, but a big one that you might be able to tell already, the collar really is a lot smaller with the Billy Reed one. This really does protect against the wind a lot more effectively than yours.
And you've got a collar clasp there too, so you can actually close it fully in.
But another thing that is a pro for the Billy Reed one is that it's easier to wear this unbuttoned than this pea coat. My pea coat, I can't really wear it unbuttoned. It hinges open like a big barn door, whereas yours, on account of the design being different, the spacing here is smaller, but also because it's a lighter weight fabric. And maybe above all, James Bond does indeed have this pea coat, and I'm not gonna pretend that shouldn't matter. That can matter to you if you want, that James Bond had it, that's fine, and he didn't have this one.
Yeah, there is something kind of cool about wearing something that is a little bit of film history, screen history kind of tied into it. But I think actually,
Yeah, I mean, my old and indie boots, like
Yeah.
50% of the reason I like them is Indiana Jones had them,
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
fine.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they're good boots.
For sure. I do the same thing actually with my barber jacket that I love to wear, because he wears that at the end of Skyfall, whereas he wears this in the beginning of Skyfall.
There's a lot of brands doing like the recreation Picots, like there's Real McCoys and there's Buzz Ricks. Like there's a few of them that do like, we're gonna make it exactly the way it used to be. And then you have brands who are like, let's see what we can do with this as like a starting off point and how we can like maybe make it even more ideal for the average customer. So I think these are two really good iconic examples of the Picoat that take it in different directions. But yeah, let us know which one, another one that we should be talking about. That's it for the video, man. You want to follow Mike on Instagram, Shaking Boots. He's out there. He's in the description below. And also subscribe here for more stuff on casual stuff that lasts a long time. We'll see you for the next one.